Content for nurturing candidates. That's next on the RecTech podcast.
All right, welcome to RecTech, the recruiting technology show where we highlight interesting HR and recruitment-related technologies, as well as talking with recruiters on how they use it to recruit and manage their talent. Today's show will be a vendor edition with the co-founder of Candidate ID. But first, my name is Chris Russell. They call me the mad scientist of online recruiting, and I spend my days helping HR tech vendors on marketing strategy and product development at rectechmedia.com. This episode of RecTech is sponsored by Job Fairing. If you are hosting a hiring event, post it for free at jobfairing.com. Job Fairing helps employers and event organizers to promote their career event to local candidates. Again, learn more at jobfairing.com. Well, my guest today is Adam Gordon. He is the CEO and co-founder of Candidate ID, the world's first talent pipeline platform. Previously, he started the research and sourcing company Social Media Search through a joint venture with Norman Broadbent PLC before undertaking a management buyout in December 2016 and merging that with Candidate ID. Adam has also worked in the HR services practice at PwC and in recruitment marketing with Havas. He works in London and Glasgow, Scotland, where the Candidate ID team is based. I got the chance to meet Adam at last month's transatlantic event hosted by Talent Tech Labs in New York, where Adam showed off his wares. And Adam, welcome to the show. Nice to have you.
Yeah, no, thank you very much for having me, Chris.
Excellent. Well, appreciate you coming on. I heard you on the Recruiting Animal podcast. I think it was last month, right? And thought you had an interesting technology out there, so I wanted to bring you on the show. Tell listeners what Candidate ID is. What is a talent pipeline platform?
Yeah, to explain what that means, I'll give a little context. There's a terminology that talent acquisition people are using, and I'm not really sure if they're using it in the way that I believe they should. So let's talk about a talent pool, for example. A talent pool to me is just a database. It could be an applicant tracking system. It could be a spreadsheet. It could be resumes in the top drawer. That's a talent pool. A talent pipeline, I think, is a very different thing. So a talent pipeline is, that's akin to a sales pipeline. And that's not just a database. It's not just a database. A talent pipeline exists where you know which people are cold, which people are lukewarm, and which people are hot to work for your organization right now. So a talent pipeline platform enables you to understand with much more transparency which people from, say, your applicant tracking system you should be reaching out to when the job comes up, because you know that they're already warm to work for your business. So the third one actually to mention is a talent community, which again is an entirely different thing. A talent community exists where people can talk to each other, where everybody can talk to each other. So that might be a Slack team or a Facebook group or some sort of bespoke community using Ning or some other online technology. But we're focused on the talent pipeline bit. And although this kind of technology is new to talent acquisition, similar technology does exist in the more mainstream world, where a category called marketing automation enables us similar outcomes for sales teams.
Okay. And so does this talent pipeline sit on top of a company's ATS, or tell me more about how that integrates with the existing workflow today?
Yeah, it can do. We have an open architecture API that will sync with most modern applicant tracking systems. Alternatively, our clients are mostly international employers. They're mostly big businesses, and to sync with their ATS is a huge task. Yeah. We've only been in the market since September, so we're really doing it more so with the more mid-sized employers. But for the large international employers, they tend to be using Candidate ID almost as a channel. So let's say they've got a hiring requirement for logistics people over the next 6 months. They might export all of their logistics candidates out of Taleo, import them into Candidate ID, and then just run Candidate ID as a channel during that period where they need to do that nurturing and candidate identification.
Okay, I see. So you have a kind of a background here in recruitment marketing, but tell me more about how and why you think recruitment marketing has changed over the years. It's something that, a lot of HR people struggle with. They're not marketers by heart.
Yeah, I mean, it's changed in the same way that most what I would call high-value purchase kind of sales have changed. So in the past, if you were looking to buy a house or a car or a holiday, then you would go to the estate agents, the real estate realtors, that's what you call them, I think, in America. You would go into the car dealership, or you would go into the travel agency, and you would go to maybe a number of different potential vendors, and you would have to go and talk to people to really find out details you needed to know to make a decision. It was exactly the same when I started in recruitment. So I worked for a staffing agency between 1999 and 2002, and in those days, all we could really do was put an advert into the local newspaper or into a trade magazine or something like that. Candidates could find out a minimum amount of information, and then they had to, make contact with me to find out a lot more. At the same time, I couldn't find out a lot about them, like online, until they made contact with me. So there wasn't very much transparency, and therefore there was a lot of humans talking to a lot of other humans, and having mismatched conversations. Now, however, candidates can find out much more information about an organization. So they can become aware of that organization through, say, advertising on jobs boards or on elsewhere. They can educate themselves by going onto the careers site and taking a look around that and finding out about what kind of brand have they got as an employer. They can then go into a more deep kind of research phase, and they can start looking around Glassdoor or LinkedIn or the Muse or other sites that employer doesn't currently control. And it's only after they've done that that they actually have to talk to a human to find out, what does the coffee really taste like? Or, what kind of a desk will I be sitting at? Or, those kind of questions that are probably only available when they talk to the recruiter. So what that means is, ironically, although you can find almost every potential candidate online now, most of them don't respond to you. They don't need to respond to you until they've gone through all of this self-directed kind of education process, themselves. They don't want to talk to a human until they're ready to find out what the coffee tastes like. So what that means is, when you're direct sourcing, and everybody talks about, direct sourcing is great. It's like a really it's the most inexpensive form. We can just go directly to candidates, and we can cut out a third party middleman. But what you're doing when you do that is, you're just identifying a list of names who you don't know whether they've ever heard of your organization, let alone they're hot for a new opportunity with you. So direct sourcing can actually be a very expensive form of recruiting, because you've got humans, and humans are the most expensive part of recruitment. Human time is, and they're spending a lot of time reaching out to candidates who are not ready to talk to them. So there's a huge amount of wasted in-mails, is just the best way to describe it, is wasted in-mails. What that means is, how does an employer adapt to the fact that the best candidates are not just making contact all the time? And that's one of the reasons we created Candidate ID, was to enable that transparency so that they can review their database as soon as the job description, the job goes live. They can go onto their database. They can filter by an engagement score that Candidate ID automatically generates for each candidate, and is up to date on a kind of real-time basis. And they can see which candidates are hot to work for us right now. They can filter by employer, they can filter by location, they can filter by job title. They can also filter by this engagement score. Yeah, and that basically tells the recruiter, of the 500 Java developers in Minneapolis on the database, here's the 10 who have been looking at our careers site recently, who have been looking at a job description recently. They're the 10 people to pick up the phone to.
I see. Okay. So, but isn't anyone who's applied to your job through your website quote unquote a hot prospect, right? I mean, I see what you mean there by the 10 most active there, but really wouldn't the first one be just as curious to talk to as the last one?
Well, there's a couple of different important concepts about this. So the first is that because those people that are applying to job adverts, they're not necessarily, and we all know this, and it is the truth, they're not necessarily the very, very best candidates that you would want to hire. They might be, but they possibly aren't.
Right.
However, if you've got 10 million people on your applicant tracking system, and you have the opportunity to nurture all of those 10 million people, then they're all on there because at some stage they have expressed an interest in working for your organization. If you've got the ability to nurture them, then you're going to bring more people through the pipeline, and that's going to give more people with higher scores, and it's going to mean there's more people to there's a slightly higher quality of potential shortlist. But you're right about the 1 to 10. Would you Yeah, absolutely. But those people, the big thing that Candidate ID can do is it can tell you who's not interested because they're not opening your emails, they're not looking at your content, they're not looking at your career site, they're not looking at your job descriptions.
Okay.
So tell you who you don't, and there's no point in picking up the phone to those people. So it's a great way of weeding out.
Let you weed out or analyze some of the intent really of who's in your pipeline, I guess.
Yes, absolutely. And just on that kind of one of the things that is very, so if you put it into the sales context, the same kind of technology on the sales in the sales world, basically it tells a sales team at all times which potential buyers are looking at your website, are looking at the product specification, are looking at the pricing page, so that salespeople are not cold calling. Salespeople in the most sophisticated organizations no longer cold call. They're reaching out to buyers who they know have been expressing an interest. Mm-hmm. So it's the same kind of thing. And if you think about PepsiCo have got 10 million people on Taleo.
Gotcha.
They cannot search those 10 million people. They simply can't search them. But what they can do is they can put them into Candidate ID, they can nurture those candidates, and that gives them that engagement score. Okay.
So Adam, this is probably safe to say that this platform is best used for companies who have lots of candidates in their database. Is that correct?
Well, yes, although for those companies that don't have any candidates in their database,
yep,
we would preach, you need to build a database.
Sure.
You need to identify the total addressable market, which is everybody that you would interview now or in the future. Go out and connect with them online, connect with them on Twitter, connect with them on LinkedIn. Go and build a relationship, tell them a bit about your organization, and bring them into your database. Nurture them with content that's going to be inspiring, even if they're not looking for a job. But for those organizations that have already got a big database, I mean, there's no excuse. They've spent money on building that database. Why do they keep investing more in advertising and more in direct sourcing and more in staffing agencies when they end up hiring people that are already on the ATS?
Yeah.
And that's all three of those channels have got big purposes, and I totally advocate all three of them. But it's just the irony that a lot of the people that the very biggest companies hire are already on the applicant tracking system, but they come through a different channel.
Okay, so you've identified 4 stages of the candidates and what types of content goes with which stage. So can you walk us through that in terms of break down each stage and what types of content should you be showing to that candidate in that stage?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, these particular stages are, I mean, they come from the sales and marketing world, and they're probably open to slight challenge. And some people have challenged me that actually there should only be 3 stages, or maybe there's 5 or 6 stages, for example. Mm-hmm. The 4 stages that we think are best fit are awareness, which is...
That starts from the top, right? Top of the funnel.
Yeah, starting from the top of the funnel. Awareness, Somebody would be in that stage if they acknowledge that you are an employer. They're not really in the market for job opportunities. But they are happy to kind of hear from you if you're going to give them things that are useful and relevant. So this is by far, as far as I'm concerned, is by far the most important stage, is that top of the funnel stage.
Okay.
Because almost every major employer offers a lot of great content for the middle of the funnel, which is the employer brand type content. And most big organizations are good at that. They're not great at the bottom of the funnel, and they're certainly no good at the top of the funnel.
Okay.
So for those people, LinkedIn would tell you that, or LinkedIn says that 80% of people on LinkedIn are not looking for a job opportunity this stage. So why would you send them job descriptions, and they don't care about your employer brand if they're not interested in looking?
Mm-hmm. So what types of content do they want to see then?
So the simple rule is anything that's going to help them be better at their job, or is going to help them with career progression. People want that kind of content, especially if it's authored by somebody who's got the same technical background as them. So let's say I'm a product manager, and I'm a product manager working at LinkedIn, and the head of product at Slack wants to send me regular content every couple of weeks, which is about, here are the hot things that you need to know about in product management. Here are the best ways of getting ahead in your career. Anything that's going to help me to get a sideways move, get a promotion, get a pay rise, develop new skills, and developing new skills and making yourself more marketable for the future is certainly one of the big things that people want. Certainly millennials. Whether you agree with this whole concept of the generational, classification or not, but it seems to be that people kind of under 30, the big thing that they want is skills that are going to help them be more marketable in the future.
So career advice, industry insights, I get that. A lot of companies struggle with creating that kind of content. How do you suggest they approach something like this if they've never done it before, especially?
Most big employers are absolutely teeming with this kind of content. They just don't realize that it's great top of the funnel candidate kind of nurture content. So some examples would be any kind of thought leadership that they have for their market, for their sales and marketing type content. That's going to be really useful to use to nurture potential candidates. Anything for their internal talent development team. So most big organizations have got some kind of internal academy, a sales academy, a technical academy, that kind of thing. All of that content. And as long as it's not like trade secret type stuff that they would never share externally, then I think that kind of content is great for nurturing potential candidates as well. It's almost ready made for it.
Yeah. So
most companies have got plenty of great content. Now, we advise our clients on content and what kind of content's good for the different stages of the funnel.
Does the platform allow them to actually, do you create that in the platform, or is it just something they put on their blog or whatever?
So it could be done in either way. We encourage heavy use of landing pages because they can help really guide a journey. Whereas if you use the careers site for every piece of the content map, candidates could potentially get lost, and they could end up, there's multiple different places they could go. Whereas if you use landing pages with maybe only 2 or 3 different options after each click, it means that it's quite easy to guide them in the way that you want to guide them, to get them the content you want to get them to get to. But if they're creating content on existing web pages, then they would just apply tracking script from candidate ID onto those web pages. If they are building it in candidate ID, they would do it using the landing pages that are already templated within there. So you could do it in either way. Okay.
So we have awareness at the top of the funnel. Next would be education on your list. And by the way, listeners, we'll put a graphic of this content funnel for you on the RecTech Media scorecard.com site along with the blog post. But Adam, tell us more about the education stage. What types of content goes into that?
I mean, the education stage, so once people come through the awareness stage and they start to display that they might be interested in looking at your company as an employer, they come through to the education stage, and that's basically employer brand. This is the marketing bit. This is the bit where you would create content that basically really shows off. What does your career journey look like in this organization? What are the people stories? How have people been creating great careers? What does the pay look like? What are the other benefits of working there? What's your corporate kind of mission?
Mm-hmm.
What are your sort of social values? All those sorts of things that people want to know to either rule you in or rule you out as they're looking at other organizations as well.
Okay.
So that's the bit that companies are focusing almost all of their communication on, is the employer brand bit and then the internal communication bit. And they're really missing that top of the funnel. But I think they've got a gap as well between the education and decision phase. So the third stage is what we call consideration. This is where they're looking to really get much more information, and they want to know, because people are, I hear this all the time about candidates applying for 20 different jobs in one go. So candidate ID is not really for that. Candidate ID is for the more considered kind of candidate. It's for I would call it the kind of volume qualified area. I also call it the Michael Page area. Mm-hmm. It's the salaries of sort of $30,000 to $150,000, that kind of range. And it's for the people who they're not sending their CV to 20 different organizations. They're much more considered than that. When they're at that third stage, it tends to be that a lot of organizations don't do very much with LinkedIn. They don't do very much with the hiring managers. And the hiring managers can play an amazing role in this third stage. They can play a great role at other stages as well, but go and make sure your hiring managers have got brilliant LinkedIn profiles. So that's a first obvious thing to do, because candidates are going to, if they're invited to come for an interview, or they find out that the hiring manager is Susan Jones, and they can't find Susan Jones on LinkedIn, or Susan Jones has got a terrible profile, or not very much extra there, then that doesn't help. If they go onto Susan Jones's profile on LinkedIn, and it expresses, how she creates a high-performing team, how she, has got to where she's got to, key things that she's interested in terms of professional priorities, and hot topics. And it gives a lot more great information about why you should work for Susan Jones. Then that's the kind of consideration phase content that's going to make a big difference.
Yeah.
So other examples might be...
On that note, Adam, I would say too that one thing I've always wanted to see on job description is like more about who you'll be working for, right? I think that's an important consideration for especially A players. Who's going to be their boss, right? Because that's an important relationship. So I think more companies should be putting on who the position reports to, so that the candidate can look them up on social media, or even provide more information on the hiring manager on the description itself. Don't you agree?
I mean, completely, because that term A players they want to work for A players, and they want to work for A players who are ahead in their career than they are, who they can learn from. It's part of that whole desire to make yourself more marketable. You make yourself more marketable by working for great people, and I've done that. Everybody I've worked for I've learned from, and there's been somebody that I've wanted to learn from. So yes, I absolutely do. I think that the hiring manager should be. I think hiring managers should be much more prominent on all kinds of recruitment communication, right from the awareness stage right through to the final stage before they come for an interview. So I completely agree. It's a vital step that most organizations do miss.
And finally, we have the decision phase, which is basically when they come in for the interview, right?
So yeah, the decision phase is whether they're going to. So they only want to interview with two organizations. They've got the opportunity to go in for an interview with Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs, and JP Morgan, at that stage, you've got to make sure they're coming to see you, and you're not the one that they're going to reject. So that's where it's got to be personalized. It's got to be one-to-one. I would say if you're in a highly competitive market, like Candidate ID users, our clients are all in highly competitive markets. I would be getting communication at that stage from the hiring manager and not from the recruiters. I'm not saying recruiters don't have a really important position all the way through this. They do, and they should be controlling all of this. Totally. But that message to say, hey, I'd really like you to come in for the interview, and this is what I'd like to talk to you about, and things that are specific to that individual, that should be authored by the hiring manager. So it's got to be one-to-one. It might be a telephone call, it might be an email, it might be a social media interaction, it might even be a letter. I don't know how many organizations really use that anymore, but it would potentially stand out if it was. So that final stage is where I think that's the roll the red carpet out phase, and I think a lot of businesses have got problems with drop off from candidates getting invited to an interview to actually not turning up or to rejecting the interview after they've been invited for it. So that content, that contact at that stage is really important.
Yeah. So I guess what your platform does is you score the candidate based on their actions. So if they open an email, you give them a point, or if they look at a landing page, you get a few more points. That's how essentially you identify the different stages of the candidate.
Yeah, it's a balanced scorecard, and there's two kind of axes in this balanced scorecard. The first is around what type of activity it is. So if it's opening an email, for example, that's a very easy to do, activity. If they're watching a video, then that's a much higher commitment activity. So it's a much higher number of points. So if they look at the 3-minute video about what it's like to work in finance at Walmart, then that scores them much higher than them opening an email.
Yeah.
The other element to this is to do with the stages. So if it's awareness stage content, it's low numbers of points. If it's consideration or decision, stage content, then it's much higher number of points. So that's the way it works. And you effectively set your own scoring model, and then once you've created that scoring model, you need to top it up every time you create a bit of new content. And you need to just put a number of points that you'd like to allocate to that particular piece of content and what it means if somebody is reviewing it. And that's exactly how it works.
Gotcha. Adam, what have your customers learned so far? What kind of insights have they gained from using the platform so far? I know you're fairly early in launch, right? When did you launch?
We launched it September last year, 26.
So not even a year. But what have your customers learned so far, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, we work with some pretty big international employers. Companies like Mondelez, Quintiles, Thermo Fisher Scientific, Wunderman, and there's about 3 or 4 different things that they've learned. The two things they've got in common are they've got evergreen hiring requirements, so they're always hiring. Like Mondelez are always hiring marketing, sales, brand people. Quintiles are always hiring clinical project managers. Wunderman are always hiring digital people, for example. If you don't have any kind of repeat hiring requirements, regular repeat hiring needs, you don't need to nurture a talent pipeline. You might as well just start each search at the beginning. The value doesn't really exist. Then the other thing they've got in common is, I kind of already mentioned this, they're in highly competitive markets. So if you're number one, stand out the market leader, again, you probably don't need to go to the effort of nurturing talent pipelines. In terms of trends, we've been in the market for 9 months, so they're still really emerging. But I already mentioned the one about a very large number of, it was a guy at Pfizer, the pharmaceutical company. He told me that in the EMEA region, they hire every permanent person they hire, they do it direct. The average time to hire is quite long, and it's quite long, and over 70% of the people they hire were already on the applicant tracking system, but they come from direct sourcing. So it's one thing I've learned certainly is that a lot of people big companies hire are already known to that organization. So Candidate ID is helping them to unlock that kind of rich vein of talent. Another a trend that Candidate ID users they've enjoyed has been the ability to massively reduce their time to shortlist.
Mm-hmm.
So if you know, I mean, this is just logic, really. If you know which people in your existing database are interested in working for you in real time, you can stop trying to spend your expensive human, recruiter's time on reaching out to cold talent. It's exactly the same as dating or something like that. You wouldn't go on to Match.com and just kind of speculatively ask people to marry you. You would go through a process. So it's just human. It's exactly the same human relationships. If they're reaching out to people totally cold, the chances of them saying yes, I'm interested in that job opportunity and I'll come in for the interview are pretty limited.
Yep.
And a third one worth mentioning is that employers are really starting to realize that they have to start thinking about the total addressable market and not just job seekers. When it comes to content and when it comes to sustainable medium-term kind of nurturing. So I think that, certainly the organizations we work with, they're becoming much, much more savvy about this whole medium-term nurturing. I mean, it could be, the nurturing process could be 2 years, it could be 3 years or more. But starting as early as possible is the right thing to do. And also when you do that, and you understand what your net promoter score is and what people think about you as a business, you can start to change people's perceptions. So if people think of you as a low-paying employer and you're not one, then you can start to make that known that you're not a low-paying employer. If, for example, people think of you as a low-paying employer and you are a low-paying employer, then that's fine. You can really ramp up what are the other big benefits that your organization brings. And doing that early is something that I think is important. So, much as that's not necessarily very top of the funnel content, you can thread it in there. Absolutely. The other thing that, big trend that's been emerging, and I can see it, absolutely see it every single month, is that talent acquisition teams are really understanding that they are a full service sales and marketing unit, and that almost everybody who works for them is in the the sales part of that.
Yep.
So they've been expanding. They've all been expanding their talent attraction teams. What used to be simply called employer brand, it wasn't really anything more than that. It then became recruitment marketing, and it's now talent attraction, which is, I think, a bit broader than that. It's all about talent channels and all that sort of thing. And I think they've got much less 360 recruiters, and they've got much more, let's call them marketing people, and they are actually hiring marketing people into the talent acquisition teams to fulfill a job, which is not just a fluffy job that they would have done in the Mad Men era. It is every single thing is directly measurable against the number of people coming in for interviews and the number of people getting hired.
Yep.
So that's been another thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think marketing's job. Marketing brings in the leads. In this case, it's the candidates. Recruiter's job is to sell them on the job and close them to make the sale. So that's how I always view recruiting and talent attraction. Anyway, so all right. So just a quick breakdown. Is this a software as a service? Is it a yearly fee? Give me a quick breakdown on the costs.
The cost will change as they will probably be different in a year's time. Mm-hmm. But at this stage, we're a startup, and it's based on data as opposed to based on users or seats.
Okay, so how many resumes you have in your database or things like that?
Well, however many however many unique candidates you've got in your database. So up to 10,000 candidates is $1,800 per month. Between 10 and 50,000 candidates is $3,600 per month. And then from 50,000 candidates and above, it's $6,000 and above. And it's elastic, just, in parallel. So I think some organizations are finding this pricing model a little bit unusual because they're used to things like LinkedIn seats and CRM licenses, and they're also used to all of the recruiters running these platforms. In terms of candidate ID, absolutely, all the recruiters can use candidate ID to filter candidates, but we wouldn't advise giving them all access to kind of running the platform.
Right.
That would sit within a center of excellence or an employer brand, talent attraction, recruitment marketing team, or it would sit within a candidate sourcing, talent sourcing team. So, the pricing model is based on volume of candidates.
Okay. Well, we certainly appreciate the insights today, Adam. I think it's definitely an interesting product. My last question for you is more about HR tech overall. What have you learned so far about how to market your product to employers? I work with a lot of HR tech startups like yourself. What tip would you say to them right now if they were starting their own HR tech company?
I think that there's three things I've learned, and I learned very fast. But there's I'll start with a fourth one actually, which is if you've got an idea to create something and there's already quite a few of them exist, just forget it. You're in a red ocean and it's a battle on price. That's it. So don't bother creating an applicant tracking system. I am quite surprised when I regularly see a startup ATS has got $5 million or $10 million seed or Series A finance, and it's the same as 20 other things that exist. Anyway, be different. Absolutely be different. Now, I think from a practical perspective, don't try selling to everybody. Keep yourselves focused on one or two key geographical markets, and don't really spend much time going beyond that in the first year. Absolutely. So in the first year, we've been almost exclusively targeting London and working with London decision makers. Even though a lot of our customers are American businesses, we've not really been targeting the United States. We're exploring New York, and we're also exploring the Netherlands as secondary markets to really go for maybe later in the year. But keep focused on one geography, because otherwise the word of mouth thing doesn't happen. So that's the first. The second one is don't try and sell to every organization. Really, really understand what's your beachhead market. Who are the organizations that are going to benefit most from what you're offering? And you pointed out, Chris, earlier, big businesses with big databases. They absolutely are. They're the ones who are benefiting fastest from implementing candidate ID. So understand, make mistakes fast and don't do them again. Don't target companies that are wrong for you. And then just from a marketing perspective, we use our own platform to understand who are the hot prospects and to understand who's coming through the pipeline from a sales perspective. Most businesses don't have the luxury of owning their own platform that does that, but you could take a look at something like Pardot or Eloqua or Marketo or Sales Fusion or something like that. Maybe HubSpot. It's not quite marketing automation, but take a look at a marketing automation platform to really understand who are the prospects you should be talking to, and don't try and pick up the phone to people cold. They just don't want it. The other thing is, one very, very final one is, I very, very much believe that even in tech, even in HR tech, people buy from people. So if you've got the opportunity to go and speak to an audience, do your own webinars, go on the Recruiting Animal Show, go on Chris's podcast, do those kinds of things. People buy from people, and if they can't hear your voice and the passion behind your business, they're less likely to be interested.
Well said, Adam Gordon. Well, thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you very much. I've really enjoyed the questions, and I'm very privileged to have had the opportunity to come on the show.
Absolutely. And tell us where to connect with you and Canada ID, please.
I'm easy to find on LinkedIn and Twitter. www.candidateid.com is where you'll find out all about our business.
Awesome. Well, we'll link to you in the show notes. Thanks again, Adam. That's going to do it for this edition of the RecTech Podcast. Thanks again to our sponsor, and remember to check out jobfairing.com for promoting your hiring events. Follow me on Twitter at Chris Russell, or visit rectechmedia.com. You can find the audio and links for this show on our blog, and you can subscribe via iTunes, Google Play, or SoundCloud. Thanks for listening, everyone.